Peace in Islam. Today we're going to talk about the United States factory known as Washington, D.C. And of course, I connect to the past. We're going to focus on, let's just start. So we got the Portuguese Victorious, which is a factory. During the territorial and economic expansion of the Age of Discovery, the factory was adapted by the Portuguese and spread throughout from West Africa to Southeast Asia. The Portuguese factorias were mostly fortified trading posts settled in coastal areas, built to centralize and thus dominate the local trade of products with the Portuguese kingdom and hence to Europe. Sound like the United States did, right? The doctrine of discovery. What they call manifest destiny. And they actually did it in West Africa and Southwest Asia, known as America. The northern part being Western Europe. See, the Portuguese factorias were mostly fortified trading posts settled on coastal areas, DC, both to centralize and thus dominate the local trade of products with the Portuguese kingdom into Europe. They served simultaneously as a market warehouse, support to the navigation of customs, and were governed by a factor, responsible for managing the trade, buying and trading products on behalf of the king, and collecting the taxes of the fief. All about collecting the fief. And Rome, we're going to show you, that's what I mean to say. In this video, we're going to show you how Rome trade on you. The first Portuguese factory overseas were established by Henry the Navigator in 1445 on the island of Arguin, off the coast of Mauritania. Mauritania just means the land of Moors. So this Wikipedia page, whether you know that or not, they're talking about a different Mauritania that we know of today. But they're talking about the island of Arguin. And the one Mauritania we talk about is in America, the northern parts of South America. Let's see. Map open. Yeah. Arguin and somewhere at that time, somewhere right here, the island of the court of Arguin. We know that that's the Knights of Christ. When you're talking about Henry the Navigator. And the trade had already been booming before that, but let's continue. It was built to attract Muslim traders and monopolize the business in the routes traveled in North Africa or America. It served as a model for the chain of African factorias, Elmina Castle being the most notorious. And the first Elmina was here. Montes Claros, right there, Elmina. talk about the Atlantic trade, though. So that means both sides is already at play anyway in this trade, which been going on since centuries. The Atlantic trade. Just new names start to change. New names start to pop out like Portuguese and Dutch and Spanish. And so wrong writing the story its own way. Just know that's what that is. Easily supplied and defended by sea. The factories work as independent colonial bases. So you see, colonies start off as these factories. They provided safeties because everything comes from something. We want to say talk about colonization, but don't know what that is. They provided safety both for the Portuguese at times for the territories in which they were both. So you see how the United States is DC, but due to zip codes, the United States dealing with territories in which they were both, protecting against constant rivalries and piracy. So all riverways, all ports, all forts under the jurisdiction of the factory, Washington, D.C. They allowed Portugal to dominate trade in the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. You see, the Atlantic Ocean, establishing a vast empire with scarce human and territorial resources because the people who in these places then the actual rulers of it. Just like it is today. We're going to get into that later in this video. Still doing the same things under Rome. The Vitorias was sometimes licensed to private entrepreneurs, corporations, giving rise to non-government organizations today, giving rise to some conflict between abusive private interests, and that's going on now with the Moorish Americans of the eastern seaboard of North America, who established the AtlantiMaurini Conquistadors, known as the United States, and their private interests being abusively, but due to the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, they can never destroy it. They only can destroy it in our minds, as long as we forget. See, and local populations, you see. They talk about in the East Indies with the Maldives. In Canton in 1820, they decided to do another play at this 13 factories or colonies. Try to do them again. You see the United States right there in the middle, leading the way. Spain, Dutch, England, Sweden, Switzerland. But that's all this is, factories. Then go back to Constantinople. We go New York City, all these places is the business centers for these factories. Washington, D.C. acting as security and administrator. Hollywood, you can see they're dealing with the religion because they one who basically baptizing everybody to think in a certain way. So they're doing the magic. So factories were then established by chartered companies such as the Dutch East India Company and founded in 1602 and the Dutch West India Company, WIC, founded in 1621. These factories provided for the exchange of products among European companies, local populations, and colonies that often started as a factory. See, colonies that often started as a factory with warehouses. You see, the Dutch, they tell you right there that they were companies, chartered companies of many different dukes and stuff. And I'm telling you now, these are local native people bought these companies. Usually these factories had larger warehouse to fit the products resulting from the increasing agricultural development of the colonies. which was boosted by the New World by the Atlantic slave trade, which they give you two versions of yourself. They give you the what we call the Cormacans, these what we call the disembarked Moors who've been getting bring to the different factories of colonies to work these warehouses and mines from these wars that have been going on across the continent, and the local populations, which was also Moors in America. These were also Moors in America, Bedouin in the Atlantic. So they were from Africa or America, but that's neither here nor there. We got a much more ancient history than 1621, right? I just trying to get you understanding of the modern and the ancient. You can see it. York Factory was founded by the Charterhouse Bay Company in 1697. It was headquarters of the company for a long time, and was once the de facto government. See, Washington D.C. and parts of North America, such as Rupert Island, before European-based companies existed. You see, so these companies from here creating companies just like Europeans. So we like to them, we look like a bunch of hypocrites who don't know our history. We really don't know the extent of this shit. Before European-based companies existed, it controlled the fur trade throughout much of British control North America, which just been based off the treaty between the Britannic Majesty and the Moors of Marrakesh, which was in America at that time, North America at that time. For several centuries, undertaking early exploration, its traders and trappers forged early relationships treaties with many groups of American Indians, Moors, and a network of trading posts formed the nucleus for later official authority in many of the areas of Western Canada and the United States. Like you say, the American Indians, but you're gonna find out that these American Indians had like English names, French names, Spanish names, and they had the control of these companies and shit. But then the treaties saying the treaties of Moors of France and the Moors of England and the Moors of Morocco and the Moors of, we thinking these foreign international treaties, these treaties dealing with this trade in America. Those treaties, like we just showed you the 1720 treaty between Great Britain and Morocco was dealing with North America. International treaties. So in the United States, factories under the Superintendent of Indian Trade, quote unquote, Creek, let me see, the different forts, Cherokee. You see how these forts got an end and a start date? That's because these are the Moors on, like I say, on the eastern seaboard mostly, who consolidated their kingdoms and create what we call the United States of America today. We the people who ordained this United States. All these people who call themselves all these things like African American, Black, and all these people. Choctaw, we see the different Fort Detroit, Chicago. And look, 1812. These early 1812, you see. Get the Moors fall on the seas of the Great Lakes in 1812, the Americans. all Scots. They had control of a lot of the northern parts of North America and England, both sides. But the Bahamian Spanish Florida stand up company is now the southeastern United States. We already know a lot of us down here in the southeastern United States. This thing about trade and and commerce. So if you been a wild man in the forest somewhere and you ain't had nothing to do with this thing, this video ain't for you. But if you had some intelligence back then in this early era, then this your history. I can't know about the wild man in the forest in the 19th century and stole. Ain't no mathematics. I don't know. So you see, this book right here been talking about Rio de la Plaza. Rio de la Plaza area is this area right here. The eastern portion of down here where it used to be called Mauritania. In this book. And we'll go do some of it. This book is for the people they making for the children who down there now and try to teach them the so-called Afro-Argentinian, Afro-Uruguayan, Afro-Paraguayan history. They do a damn much better job than the United States do, though. But you know, it ain't never as accurate as us telling our own history. But you see all they talking about the Moors. I know people who watch this can read Spanish, but talking about the wars between Moors and Christians again in North Africa, Tripoli. I'm showing you how they look to giving this to them children down there. The caste, the race of the blacks of Guinea. They talk about the contracts in the East Indies and the West Indies. They get into the Christian side of things. The Virgin de la Merced, La Morenita. See? Give you the truth right there. In the church. If anybody know it's wrong, they know the truth because they're always telling you everything. You gotta know the truth to lie. To be able to formulate the lie. War with Moors. All it is. Morocco, or what they call in Morocco, black corn. They use the term Morocco for black. They try to say somebody with black hair and white skin, and down here say brown skin and black hair, and they say this they talk about America, right there, America, Quechua language, and Morocco, Muruchu. They got another person or a black corn definition. Microsoft and Carter, 2009. Morocho de Arabal. So you see how they take your name even in America. Argentina and Peru. Someone with brown skin. Argentina, Peru, and Paraguay. Now somebody with white skin. See how they play games. But then neither here or there, just like the term Morocco means dark corn. So the term Morocco means dark to them in the Hookah language. According to him, who knows? But this book is saying, look, they going in on this. And they talking about, again, Jesuits. You see, he went from Moro to India, and that ain't the only thing he going for. Yeah, a lot of things they about to teach him that's different from what he already had know. And they gonna take what he used to know and put him overseas somewhere. The Moorish school. So you got Jesuits, you got Moors being converted. So whatever name you was now, believe that you used to be Moor. I can tell you that now. You got Jesuits around. You got the Catholics around. You used to be more of a dark skin especially. Stop playing. It's simple. You got a church around, and it has to be a Moor. And that's what a treaty reflects. It's an international treaty that got all your protections in them. Just like, again, Umar Johnson still complaining about Asians being protected by law and stuff like that by a piece of paper, huh? It mattered to him now when it comes to that, but we've been telling you, you've been had those protections since ancient times, and in English, just so, because they know the whole world is going to be under English influence, so they just make another one for everybody on the planet who are Moors and first class citizens everywhere they at, based off those. But you worrying about, but to you in your mind, I don't say that. I see a lot of people talking about the treaty who don't claim to be more than 99.9% of them ain't know what they talking about. And we got different names, but you see Moros out to Chile. They got Angola, Mexico, Congo, everywhere. The Lord of the Blacks, and Belén de los Negros. Like I said, they going on in this book now. They just kind of confused about where Africa is really at, or how the extent of what Africa, quote unquote, is under Roman literature. And they were talking about those Amaruecos. A lot of people, the first thing people always ask me is about the Morocco that they know in their modern day mentality, which is in North Africa of today, on our maps that we see in school, right? But what they don't know is that a million, thousands of terms not used no more. Languages change form. And a lot of terms still today on our maps that we can't even read. We don't know that it means something. Like the term America doesn't mean what Webster said in 1800s. Doesn't mean what he said it means. He just giving you a description of how one may look if you see one, an American. Just like, again, you saying more, and you see the definition, any dark-skinned person. I just showing you how you can see one when you out and about. If you see one, a dark-skinned person, that's a Moor. That's what the definition telling you. And define the word. And the same with Morocco. They define the word as a modern day aspect of whatever. When the word got a meaning the land of Moors. Prefix and the suffix. Just like most words. And that's another version of that word, Morocco. Again, a bunch of words still on the map today in places that you wouldn't even expect. Probably ain't no dark-skinned people at no more in we still got the word Morocco as the name. They don't even much know that's what the name is. Land of Moors. It's all the same. Mauritania is the same word. Land of Moors. Mari, Moors, in Latin. And Tanya, a suffix that means the land of in Latin. Just like Ika means the land of. The Aseer. Just like this. California. Let's see, Calif spell like that. Because language always based off who writing the motherfucker. Like this. One definition defined like this. Moor, a black man. It's because the person who wrote this book called the dictionary. That man, that's what he said means. I mean, what the intellectual class of people do, we cross-reference multiple dictionaries, multiple timelines, and we formulate our own version and make it better. But I got no problem with this author. He giving you straight up what that is. If he had wanted to give you etymology, he would have called his book an etymological dictionary. So you see, again, Rio de Janeiro, the far west part of Africa. Many Moor, in the Dutch. And the Dutch again just mean the group of dukes, and they show you that in North America, where these duke or duchess who set up established their companies. In North America, East and West, the eastern parts. East Indian Ocean and Atlantic. And that's what I'm saying about Rome supplanting over Morocco, the land of Moors. And you got the diocese on top of it. Rome always put a jurisdiction on Morocco for trade. And like we say again, Rome trade on the Moors on you. See, alderman, it's like a ottoman, an elder. Let's go into ancient and modern. Elder, ale. We show you in the last video the bay and the bailiwick. I want to call it these, the bailiwicks. So now that's the ale, the alderman, or the owl, or the elder. All those words that people want to say, that's Ottoman or Turkish. It's showing you in America, in the colony. The Quaid, the northern kingdom of Sicily. So we're dealing with Rome, right? You got the Alcade, right? And you got to Faris. Why you think? Because where we get Paris from, really. But it's hard to find etymology connecting that. Do that yourself. You have to do that yourself. Paris. Comparable to the Western Knight or the Cavalier. The 500 million of the Begum. The Begum is a female Bey. Somebody steal 500 million from the female Bey. And a lot of this tales in like a jungle. I think that's an American book. And they think based off language, I know what Begum is, a female Moorish princess or something like that. It's about 500 million. And they come to steal. After the fall of Constantinople, having conquered the Byzantine Empire, Mehmed took the title Kaiser-i-Rum. So he takes the title of King of Rome, claiming successor of the Roman Empire. His claim was that by possession of the city, he was emperor, a new dynasty by conquest as done previously by Hercules and Leo III. Contemporary scholar George Trebizond wrote the seat of the Roman Empire is Constantinople, or again New York, and he who was and remains emperor of the Romans is also the emperor of the whole world. So that's what we call now in the United States Joe Biden, allegedly leader of the free world. They're changing terms up a little bit. Same thing's going on though. The model Roman kingdom. Berber kingdom, role model, Berber kingdom. And that's why we were saying these Moors, these who been the Africans, they've been from the early Roman model kingdoms. And we're using the term Africa today for ourselves because it's still going on. Was an independent Christian Berber, and that's who he is now today, technically, because times ain't really changed. So you got the Black Caucus in DC. That's who they really is. Which control much of the ancient Roman provinces of Mauritania, Caesarea, and the other side been Tekitana. The kingdom was first formed in the 1st century and Roman control over The kingdom was first formed in the 1st century as Roman control over province weakened and imperial resources had to be concentrated elsewhere, notably in defending the Italian peninsula itself from invading Germanic tribes. In Mauritania, local Berber traders and tribes had long been integrated into the imperial system as allies. Federati, Federati, which is the Federation of Feds, and frontier commanders, and as Romans' control weakened, they established their own kingdoms and polities in the region. So we see that happen on both sides of the Atlantic after the fall of Rome and after Carthage. We got these Moors and so-called Christian Moors, both setting up kingdoms on both sides of the Atlantic themselves. So the presence of Romanized communities along the frontier region of the province meant that the Berber chieftains had some experience in governing population composed of both Berbers and Romans. So that's what we're dealing with today. Joe Biden is technically the king of the Moors and the Christians, are the Berbers and the Romans, are the Moors and the Romans. Following the final collapse of the Western Roman Empire, the Moro-Roman kingdom would grow into a fully fledged barbarian kingdom, not entirely unlike those that had sprung up in other parts of the former empire. Though most other barbarian kingdoms, such as those of the Visigoths and Vandals, were fully within the borders of former Roman Empire, the Moro-Roman kingdom extended beyond the former imperial frontier, also encompassing Berber territory never controlled by Romans. On the side of America, they were talking about the interior parts of the whole continent. They never really could infiltrate the interiors. Probably most likely to this day by Guyana, the side dealing with Georgetown, is one of the ancient Berber kingdoms, still with the indigenous name. That'll be an example of what they're talking about. We are talking about Rome here, right? We're just talking about Rome, Western Empire, model Roman, the kings of the Moors and Romans. That's what Joe Biden is. Say Rex Gentium Marorum et Romanorum. In order for Rome to hide this, they changed names of people, call them Indians, black people, white people, Africans, all these different names, besides Moors and Romans, like the original documents. Because treaties dealing with these empires that exist, which we really don't need. We've got the latest one that's perfected, truly a piece of friendship. But if you're skilled enough, you can use the ancient treaty on people. They wouldn't even know what it is, but you can use it in law. So the Romans were a cultural group variously referred to as ethnicity or a nationality that is classical antiquity. For the 2nd century BC to the 1st century BC became a large part of Europe, the Near East, and North Africa through conquests made during the Roman Republic and the later Roman Empire. So basically it's a word that doesn't really mean citizen, it's just a citizen of Rome modernly. They leave America out, but they always leave America out, these type ancient stuff. Before 1492, they're gonna leave America out if it's something that predate Columbus. such as Ethiop, another term which Roman used for black people, which also were Roman used today for Moors, black people. So let's get that straight. Wiki. Carry no social implications and through phenotype related stereotypes certainly existed in ancient Rome's inherited physical characteristics were typically not relevant to social status, meaning these ancient Romans been all type of people, dark skin, light, whatever, just about status and national understanding. Everything dealing with status. And that's what it still is now. Who got treaties for who is who, based off who they been. And that's their favorite trick, is to make you forget who you been. So they enslave you. I'll tell you Western cultures as Roman, Greek philosophy, Roman law, and Christian culture. And that Christian culture is reconstructed by the Catholics. Of course, we know that. Based off the early wars between the breakout between the church and the Catholics. But Rome ultimately got control of it. And we know we in Roman law. You can see right here we in Roman law. Apart from these families called gentes, these Moors, and the slaves, legally objects, mancipia, kept in the master's hand. They were plebeians that did not exist from a legal perspective. You see how people can have these type of names that don't really got a legal existence. And there are a lot of terms that they reusing that don't have a legal existence in Rome or Morocco. They had no legal capacity and were not able to make contract even though they were not slaves. To deal with this problem, the so-called clientela, clients, were created. By this institution, a plebeian joined the family of a partition in a legal sense and could close contract by mediation of his partition, parter familias, everything the plebeian possessed or acquired legally belonged to the gens. That's what the United States is. These families who consolidated their trust for themselves and their prosperity, so it legally belonged to them. Early 1490s, we got relations going on between kings and Europeans. On November 2nd, Columbus decided to send Rodrigo de Jerez and Luis de Torres, who had lived with the Adelantado of Murcia and was a Jew and knew Hebrew. You see, Hebrew is a language people, not a people. And Chaldaic and some Arabic to see the king of Cuba. So he had to know either Hebrew, Chaldaic, or Arabic when he come to America in those days, in order to present the letters and find out all that was necessary. Naturally, a man who knew Arabic and another who knew the language of Guinea, as we heard before, was especially adapted to hold converse with the kings of the Indies. The back of 1740. So it's before the United States, right? 1776. Section 1 declares all Negroes or blacks and Indians, free Indians in amity with this government, Negroes, mulattoes, and mestizos who are now free exempted. So you see Rome giving you privilege, but you're still under Rome because they still if they gotta give you something, you under them to be slaves. The offspring to follow the condition of the mother, and such slaves are chattel personnel. Okay. We'll get to Indians, and descendants of Indians are regarded as free Indians in amity with this government until the contrary be shown. (1740). You gotta read that. The race of slave Indians or of Indians not in amity with this government. See, they got control of that. The term Negro is confined to slave Africans. The ancient Berbers, remember we just finished talking about the Moro Berber, Moro Romo Empire. So in 1740, South Carolina is still under Roman influence, even though they speak English now, and some words change up. We can see they still saying the ancient Berbers, which is they know people still from that era who've been at war with Rome at the most part, and their descendants. So that's what a black person does, the ancient Berbers under Roman influence. It does not embrace the free people of Africa, such as the Egyptians, the Moors, or the black Asiatics, such as the Lasars. And they put that in there because they got treaty with all these term people of these empires. And since the South Carolina, they put Egyptian, Moors, and Asiatics and all that in there because that's the people who were here and other places. Just based off how old the empire scratch, how far it scratch. But people who call themselves these terms like black and Indian and these other terms, they're unrecognizable to Rome, and they either Roman slaves. That's simple. Some people don't know who he is. It's like Malcolm X been X. They saying he'll know who he is until we find out. Black is that. I'm talking about free Negroes, mulatto, mestizos, people who they have to make free. And right here they say any person claiming to be white. So if you got to claim to be that, that means that I know something that we look at as today, as we just could look at a person and see if they're there or not. Just dealt with status. At that time. Also Negro. Also meant status. That's why people making writing books now and finding out that they've been labeling what they call white people as Negroes at that time. You will find a lot of that. You will find a lot of the opposite, like Sarah. We'll get to that later. This law began in our colonial times and made for us by our rulers, given to us by Great Britain. So they're using the same rules. The reason why they exempt Moors, because Moors already got a treaty with Britain that goes back to the 1720 treaty between Great Britain and Marrakesh. So they can't break those treaties just because they create South Carolina and create a new thing and stuff like that. And the people over here are those same people who've been a part of of that treaty from both sides, Americans and England, writing this. Okay, we're going to say right here, 1803 prohibits the importation of blacks, mulatto, mestizo, or other person of color born or free from Bahamas, West Indies Islands, or South America, and also from other parts of all those persons who have been residents in any of the French West Indies Islands. So you see, they know where Moors were coming from, and they didn't even know Africa, like they told us in our modern day Rockefeller schools. This been between the wars between Moors and Christians, and captains getting seen up and down the continent around close areas from one colony to another in America. So South Carolina prohibited it because I guess it been happening, and they've been tired of managing it, so they banned it. And again, very more from different parts of the American Empire. Again, the old Rome, the ancient Berbers. Easy trips to South Carolina. That's why they say Bahama. The French West Indian Islands and shit. So again, we go into the Museum of Sao Paulo, Afro-Brazilian Museum. So you see these kings, Bahamite, Sultan. They put these in the Brazilian Museum because Afro-Brazilian Museum because they know how far-stretched these kingdoms have been on this side and that side. Oh man, that's the title. Like Autumn Man. You got the narrow boat sitting on there. And you got the original cross on there, like the Berbers we were talking about earlier. Emir. People like him protect all his people, past, present, and future, with a treaty. And we can't read it. Sad. There are many discovered kingdoms of Portuguese expansion through Atlantic islands and African continent. This is from this museum too now. With the political and social and religious structure, these supreme. That's why you're going to do now. Political, social, which is what we got these fake terms for social reasons, and religious, going through all those things. Structure. These supreme sovereigns negotiated and exchanged correspondence with Portuguese kings, and even got baptized, again with that last video, to receive not only Christian blessings but also protection of their majesties. And even to this day, you still got the right to have your kingdom wherever you at and live the way you need to, based off what they did in law with these treaties and these agreements. So they gotta make sure you forget. Supreme Chief. Supreme Chief. Oba, Egba. people look like people who we can walk down the street, man. See, people look like this all day now. The only problem is we disconnected in our mind that we ain't in the western part of Africa, we ain't in the western Moorish Empire. We own these other things. But the people walking around every day like this look just like me, man. You just don't got the knowledge of self. Up and down the continent. They still don't know who they are. They living like that too. It's salty. Not as salty. I'm looking at something on Sunday TV one day, and they're talking about how the Moors been the Arabs and they been enslaving them, and that's why they being Islamic, and that's why they Moors and all this stuff. Like they don't really know in modern times people still Sultans out here in Africa look just like them. They claim to be Afro. They claim to be in love with the Africans and Afrocentrism, but the ones who over there who still know who they are, they Moors, and they call themselves like Sultans. And they free. When you gotta go in history, you can go in modern time, you see all up and down the continent, they still free, still singing each other. In the middle of Maroa. I say they get this from the quote unquote Arabs. They must know what the word means, but socially, the Hollywood version of what they think of Moors. They had the power and rely on the loyalty of an army often made up of women warriors called Amazons, right? Amazon River. The Moorish kingdoms been the same through this green script that we see. And many of them went north and south of that script and create things. Same people. And of course, this area, all this riverways and water, we loved it since ancient times. People just like this. The Moors. Sand Museum. Sand Museum out here in Brazil. think we're gonna see a lot that X and that red and white again, ancient. You see back there they trying to get rid of maps, of the Atlantic slave trade map, because they know that it's way too much. One, the people for one, and the culture is so similar to the Moors in this area of today. You just forget who you was. They ain't forget. But not all us forget over here. Just Rome making it seem like that through their movies and their other bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Museum. You always got to leave with the red flag. Wow. Morocco. Maracatu and the Alagos Warrior Afro-Brazilian Festival. The King of Maracatu, Elephant Nation, garment. Yeah, red and white. As part of this tradition alive since the turn of the 19th century, their kings and queens are crowned with much pomp and ceremony. They didn't much know why Moors in Brazil, even to this day, still have celebrations with crowns on and shit. They think that they remember their old African ways. That's how they formulate that shit in their mind. These people really are sick because they spend their whole life trying to study other people's things, trying to study themselves. They don't care about themselves. They so nosy. Queen of Maracatu. And you know the Moors of Florida got their fairs like this. Seminole. Look at those pictures. The spearmen of Maracatu. And you know, us in North America is definitely connected with the Moors down here. That's an easy travel back and forth. For centuries, way before 1492. All over this motherfucker. So we all got the same customs, in America at least. And then to the west, to the Africa. We got two groups right now. We got the groups who going with the original Roman story that they get shipped over here from Africa. And you got another group saying we already been here. So both of those groups got Roman mentalities and thinking about their history, because history ain't that short. Very much longer than what we just going by. And as Moorish Americans, we tell them all the time we're from Earth. So wherever you see a Moor at, he's most likely from that place. So there ain't no confusion. There ain't no if we from Africa or if we indigenous to America. That both of those statements are true for people who come to America now from other places, and you mix with them and have a child. That's been going on for thousands of years. So with understanding that is knowing your true history, your true Moorish history. If you're in America and you know that, if you're born in America, most likely you was from America, because most of the people of your bloodline around you. So, but if you move to, let's say, Guyana, you still know your history. Now you one of the original people there too, because half the people there thousands of years going back and they still your relatives. So you came there too. You came here, you came there. You go to Europe, you came there. That's if you understand your true history. And then nobody be able to put nothing over your head. Tell you shit. Again, unless you wild man in the forest, shit, who ain't even know what a boat is. That's your relationship. Even them people ain't really exist like that no more. They're not bleeding into the intelligent people of the world. So you're talking about traditions. And that little bone, tusk bone being interesting because we got that in North America. And we got that in North Africa. That tradition of the tusk bone necklace. So you got like little videos. Esta de Nossa Senhora. And then people like him is the reconstructionists. You think he knows something, but he don't really know. Could have been walking through Portugal and you wouldn't know the difference. They just keep the tradition longer than us because they much closer to the Latin than the English closer to the Latin. So they can go back further in their timeline and bring their traditions up to them and their understanding. They're having a funeral. Ancient science. But the traditions really don't change. So that's why they can remember a good tradition. The Mother de Tina de Shango, 1928 to 2014. Bahia, Brazil. Argentina, I think, with a Mexico expedition. I won't show that. So you can see both in the Moorish architecture. You got Moors, building, architecting. Got the army back there, Mexico. And you see the friar teaching the children, the people, ready to baptize everybody. And then you got the Spanish coming in. And you see the walls, people running, fighting on the walls. The Star Fort, wall in the Star Fort, burning people, inquisitions, pyramids. All depictions of these stories. Getting put in prisons. These captives that getting shipped around, being called African slaves now. That's how Rome did. Argentina, 1820s. Argentina. Let's see the Moorish the Rain Army. Still 1820. Something about that time. Sailors. Like Confederates. From Mexico. You see they got the kings on the wall. Same thing. Stone the Sand Museum. I think there's one in Lima, Peru. Every year we call them, but the Many Moors, like, using the allegory of the black face. But then that necklace again, like the same one with the moon, the crescent, right? Like a little tusk, but they got these still same thing, the crescent. And a lot of the buildings out there. Stores standing on the top of the mayor in Guyana. Ceremony, the top of mayor. Guyaners. They always put the parrot in there to show you America, allegory for America. From the top of mayor ceremony, taking pictures. Being Moorish Americans. Like the word you always say, Muslims up and down the continent. Gold Coast and Guinea. So they must know what side. Because the jurisdiction spreads from both sides anyway. And check this out. I always say they always put the God of Europe in there on you. Argentina, like having a festival of Moors and Christian wars, even though they are Moors, having a ceremony. But they really remember Argentina and South America more than us because of the language, more closer to the land. Bahia, so. Boy, Cabron, Snap, Cabral, whatever his name is. The more factors, but from here, they turn a lot of these, they turn a lot of them to conquistadors and navigators and the Rootwords. There's a lot of that to demonize a lot of them too, and sometimes most of them be good guys, and the history was paint them as the bad guys. They do a lot of that too. It's like hard to tell which ones they good to. But I got some examples of that. They had this in that museum too. And drawing paintings to this looks like us in North America. Drawing these type of paintings like they've been in chains and ran away and all that. Start your history off right there. More land. Research. Peru. I think Peru. 1947. They're having a ceremony out there. Somebody's painted. I ain't shocked because they call these people Afro-Peruvians. They the same old stories with everybody, with every country. Because they're dealing with Rome diocese. They get to make the schools, the St. Benedict the Moor schools. Ecuador, 1850. I know that's Ecuador or what? Ecuador. The Natera, 1850. Like the Arabs, right? It's America, 1800. I think Peru, because I think the one in Peru all dressed like that. Morexia, 1870. No Manuel Salinas. Nobody saying black something. Negro Acanladidano Miramo Polimia of Carmen, whatever Esteban Arredondo, 1860. Valero and Mantequero, 1840. Yeah, definitely Peru. That big ass head. 1830. 1820. Valenciano. He got that whoop thing, got that red thing across his waist. Interesting. With a cape. Okay, let's see what I say. 1860. Bearing the cross. He's painted in that same museum. Egyptians playing chess. Moors playing chess. A portrait of the intrepid sailor Samuel, 1843, Lima, Peru. Or somebody from Lima. But I believe the same museum in Lima. How you gonna find these? You gotta put Afro-Peruvian history, stuff like that. I speak like Rome. Trick them. The balls on the side looking. What's going on? Maybe I'm gonna buy something or what? They paint all this stuff and they paint the people wasn't right along with it. Now they got them little white headbands like the Moors of Corsica. Italy, huh? That pay good to the architecture. They're painting like this. And this Egyptian status. Visual anti-Moorish culture, which he dressed, and drawn by a person named Pedro Americo. Even that name Americo would mean Carmel. Paintings like this in there, in America. All these paintings in American museums. These are the ones that will make them look like just allegories for something in the East. Yeah, another parrot. Paulistas. Look how that boy dressed in this one. We talk about Sao Paulo, Brazil. Not even that far back. 1850. So you're probably playing an allegory of the older days, the ceremony of the old days of that area, Morocco. And things like this. The Beduinos. Cafusa de Sacreo. The Baco. Soldier of the Cavaliers in 1893. Supposed to be allegory for Othello, I think. Dressed in the Portuguese soldier outfit. Not Portuguese, Argentina. Paulista. That's so close to Argentina. Let's check that out. I think he's right on the border when we get into Uruguay. He's getting closer down to Argentina. So you got the Espanol with the Negra, the black woman, create the mulatto. That's our on top. And then they got the mulatto when he grew up with the Spanola, Spanish woman, create a quartet on. So you see how United States using the same things today. Because it's all wrong, no matter what different language they change it to. And then these getting to the same museum in America. Even this museum called Moorish, 2 Moors, 1661. See, this museum in Suriname, I think. That's Suriname. Like we were talking about earlier, this is not defining this term. You see how they put the parentheses to split the prefix from the suffix. Because they know it's Amer, the land of Econ, is the land of Amer. That's the true definition. And they knew that too. In the old Dutch, they knew. They were talking about these Amirs, known as what they called, like Duke or Dutch. That's like you saying a Duke. Amir is saying a Moorish prince or leader or lord. And these the guys who was selling the shit on the side. They meant the Amirs. According to the Latin, that went into the Dutch or the French, no matter who was talking now. They knew exactly what it was. And this way you say Arab. Some people see Arab and Afro-made culture. In 19th century Russia as an other European societies, early Russian conceptions of blacks are to fuse disparate racial and cultural types. So they're trying to explain why they calling this person Arab. Just like mostly with most every other word, it get connotatively defined, and then people think that's what it is. You see, a Moorish pipe. Oh, listen to saying museum. So we went back around, back to the colony, United States, Washington D.C. We see Joint Stock Company. That's probably where most likely set up as, registered under the trust that we set up in 1787. But this company ain't really got no authority. It's using a business entity to do business. The Federal Reserve, that's what that is. The Federal Reserve is this. They've been holding the original government of the United States hostage. So we talked about this earlier. So just like this in this faction. And they basically tell you how they did it. And how anybody can do this, set this up. And that's what citizens under Washington D.C. registered in Delaware, incorporated in Delaware. The U.S. citizens could be this, or it could be a natural citizen, or it could be a juristic citizen. That's why we say citizen of the United States, or citizens of the several states united. We'll say that before we say U.S. citizen, because that's a trick. U.S. citizen could mean a citizen of the United States naturally, or so you put an or in there. That means they ask you that, so you can say no, I'm not a U.S. citizen. So now you ain't a natural citizen of the United States proper, because that could be there. So, but what Moors need to get in their mind is, don't let nobody ask you that question. Don't let nobody, I don't care if he a judge or a cop on the side of the road, if he asks you if you a U.S. citizen, look at him like he crazy, because just by how you look, they know goddamn well you from this land, period. You know you were born here, and your mama and your grandmama and further back. They know that. They're playing games with you, but they don't ask nobody else if they're U.S. citizens. Then they arrest them or whatever. They only ask that to Moorish Americans for some reason. We're the most first class of the U.S. citizens there is. We're the original citizens of the United States. Properly. They try to make you foreign by either asking you that, and that's disrespectful, because motherfucker, I look like I the motherfucker original being here. We the people who are ordained this thing. So if other people who they arrest who may look foreign based off phenotype, I ain't the one. None of us ain't the one. Ain't our fault, and incumbent on us, for you to know that we say we from Morocco, that we talking about America. That ain't our problem. We can't go in your head and make you know that. And since you don't know that, that still don't give you no right to try to make a foreigner out of anyone else, anybody. Because common sense, you know, how we ride our big wheel up and down these streets, not no streets in Morocco. Modern. You seeing goddamn American streets, we all call it hood. I know goddamn well most of these Moorish Americans, straight from that, y'all can tell by how they walk, talk, and look. Let's stop playing them games about some Moors from here. If you use the term America, then and then you ask that question, then you don't need to be heard no more. Because you can't even explain what the term America is. These other versions of companies that we saw in the beginning, all coming from the factory system. Trade and commerce. And this one right here too is one of the most interesting. They say the family. The family is a corporation or business entity. So that's when they should tell you we deal with Roman law. But it's not a bad thing. You gotta know the truth about it, because it's actually also Morocco on the other side of that coin. Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. Sarah Rector. Sarah Rector made the headlines in newspaper throughout the United States, and the Oklahoma legislator declared her to be white, a white person due to her wealth. So, in law, white and black is two totally different what we deal with in social and our social understandings. Like we saw earlier today, more referred to the harbor master. May also refer to, you gotta use the term like may, probably. Just know that that's more respectful. Because if you don't call yourself that, then all you could do is guess or ask the person who called themselves that. Let them define their own self. It may also have referred to a person with a darker skin, or more generally a person with connection to the African continent. Dark-skinned people. Maroon. What we were talking about earlier, the term disembarked Moors. Moors who've been captives and runaways from different prison camps. Whatever we got going on this side, been labeled maroon or semi-maroon by Carlos V. I think he's been basically one of the first. And Drake, he had a version of the word that he wrote about in his book called Summeroons. He been all up and down America. But that's a disembarked Moor, technically. Lost at sea, don't know where his kingdom is. But still free. The Roman rules was you to get the Negro or the African brand or Indian brand. But he still ain't under ruling his own kingdom. Technically. So, Maroon. And you see they put all parts of the New World because the old books, especially written in Spanish and Old English, all the people being called Maroons or some Maroons. You see they say wow, because unruly, because they ain't had no treaties or no relations with them. But that means these people ain't been civilized within their own kingdom. This ain't no more deal with Rome. So Rome renamed them. You see, everything go from Spanish to English. Everything. The English take a lot of things from just the Spanish history and words and languages. That's why Morocco spelled like he spelled, because they get that from the Spanish version of Moro, the land of Moros. And they get the Oko part from Italy. So not even an English word is, but the English version of the treaties use that term. English use that term, that version of the term, MOROCCO, the term that everybody in the world think that's the only term that means land of Moors. And not even truly English. It should be MOOR. It should just be moorland, like they would have lands called moorland. Look at that. Then escaped Indians, enslaved Indians. You see, maroonage was a constant threat to the New World. So you see, calling them maroonage as in a ship disembarked. Southern United States. And the Guianas now, you're talking about in America. If you click there. Perpetual state of hatred toward the Maroon communities because they don't want to be a part of Rome. So all these are old Moorish kingdoms being modernized and restructured into what we call Venezuela, Colombia, North America, Canada, Brazil today. It's a through line. Still trade with these other people. Illinois, Mexico, Nova Scotia, Florida, which is the entire South. At that time, the whole South been called the Florida, from Texas to Carolina. Louisiana. And a lot of these stories before 1776. So it's the shaping of America. And the reason why we had the Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Stop all these wars that have been going on, still going on between Moors and Christians. South Carolina, Virginia, Brazil, Colombia, and all this right here is showing you there's this evidence of Moorish America from Alaska to Chile. We call them Maroons, we call it what they want. But the evidence, you can mix the evidence. All they're doing is taking pieces and pieces and spraying them on different schools of thoughts that I can show you. Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, French Guiana, Suriname, and even on the other side, Indian Ocean, Mauritius. Then you got some more information on where they really been. And they showing you the natives. They always try to make them like these maroons mix in with the natives. They ain't going to do all these things. No, that's been natives. They were using the term African for dark-skinned people. That's what they're doing. The jungles around the Caribbean Sea, you see, they know they find so many us in these jungles. And they call it the Congo when they did. If you go look today, a bunch of places called Congo. They call it that because more of these places tap into old Africa. The Congo, or the Senegal, which is they call the swamp. Or the Angola. These terms mean something. It's like Morocco ain't just a place that we see today on a Roman map of people. And they've been the ones who are freeing other Moors who were captives on these slave camps. Because this Moorish history, Maroon is a disrespectful term to call you. That's how they denationalize you. And you got so today in modern day America, and Suriname and French Guiana, all these nations still around. And when I say Guyana, the Guineans one of the longest Moorish kingdoms that hold on the longest. I can tell you, go look at this, they've always been fighting up until our modern times. They had captains and aldermen, which is beys, and capitains and basilas. Wars caused a lot of them and us, because we the same people, to be brought back and forth from North, South America as captives and shit sometimes. Even these chiefs, the Mamluko's version of the chiefs still been under the Moorish name, they still had to understand they got a grind, man. In 1800, 1863, a peace treaty signed offering the tribe the abandoned plantation, Guapablan and Rock. And of course, they have already juggled different factions. But they run their own country, don't they run the shit. The National Army against the Maroons, but all the Moors has stole Spanish were not able to conquer them. Suriname soldiers in Brazil. The Lion Commando, the Suriname National Liberation Army. Moriwana village near Moango. They say he has Indian blood in him. They say he has an Indian wife somewhere and a lot of papooses. Cherokee. They say he used to be known as Summeron. Carver hence his son's name corrupted to Sim. They say his real name is Summeron Saver of the Choctaw Indian family of Sevens. He was raised in a teepee. A wiccup had been his bedroom, a blanket, his robe. We're talking about Indian, known as Summeron, a Spanish word meaning wild or unruly. And when you get the truth of what that word means, it just means, like I said, when you disembark more, a more who they don't got treaties with. So of course that's wild to them. That's where Indian come from. They can use that term to denationalize them more and steal something. It's from the same book. But let me see. I'm gonna finish. And Gordon promises of capture Indians eager to get back to the home of his own tribe far away, like the Spanish conquistador in the desert. He said, and see, Isaiah told him tales that were legal folklore handed down word of mouth throughout the years. Songs and there we follow a legend of buried treasure. Spanish conquistadors wandered weary miles over plains and burying deserts led perhaps by false quoted promises. Also captured Indians eager to get back to the home of their own tribe far away. They probably talking about California. Once they eventually did find gold of the bays. So they still talk about sun. The Indians had swept over the plain in hordes, and buffalo by the millions. She wanted of the early Spaniards and their lust for gold had trod this ground. Perhaps this very trail, Coronado de Soto Narvaez, she had seen pictures of them, these dark-skinned elegantes in their cumbersome trappings of leather and heavy metals. Fast southwestern searching for children for cities of gold, but they were interesting. Dark-skinned elegantes. Surely that the Spaniards usually change history up so much they even reconstruct the old history of conquerors. That even been done. Which again show you how much power you really got in hand. Ain't nobody conquer you, you conquer yourself in your head. True story. So they were reading about Comanche. He taught some of the words of Comanche with the court language of the Indian, which is the court language We talking about court language, the language of the court of the Indian. He put him on a horse at the age of 6, sentimentalist and romantic. He talked to the boy of the sunset, of Spanish gold, of the wild days of the summer moon. See? In Indian history, Moorish history is ancient history to the Indian. He late. Because that word come around late. And the empire so nearly founded there. Empire. So you want the old Spanish records. When they talk about mulattoes and blacks, and it's in America. They're talking about black fugitives, summer delinquents, castigados, and the penalties. Black summer alzados, and the province of Tierra Firme. You see? That's America. Been managing blacks and Indians and all these other terms. They can manage that because that's their terms that they use it. They are free Moranos. They can manage that too. Talking about Tierra Firme. Tierra Firme is all of this from Medellin to East Georgetown at this time. Kumana. South Carolina, right? That's where the Israel is from. Negroes and Negras, black men and women, free or slave. Indios and Indias, Indian man or woman, free or slave. Managing everything on the colony at this time. What we trying to teach is that none of that, you ain't really free. Get out of that. Snap out of it. Once you snap out of it, now you become the enemy of the Catholic faith. And you really get to see where the war at. Mercaderes Españoles. Enslaved Aforedores. Acerados. vagabonds, and gitanos, which is another term we use as gypsy, somebody who they believe is an Egyptian. Vagabonds about. And they got this one, mulattoes, Negroes, and Berbers, Berberiscos. Tribute to the king. Vagabonds. Christian Indians, or Indians down with Castile, or Gitanos down with Castile. So much confusion. You see again the Alcaides, the Alcaides. Big and Ticky from the times of Roman culture, straight on through on the timeline up until modern day. No confusion in between. On any landmass on Earth. The Zambiagos. Filipinos and Chile, because again I was dealing with King Felipe and his subjects become Filipinos. He also took jurisdiction over all Indios, made all subjects, East and West Indies, Indians, and his subjects, vassals. So it's easier to go back and see who are the people who he made Indians. Who did he deem Indians? He deemed Moros Indians. So you can see who name he changed. So go back to the names before he changed them. That's simple. That's why you got Indians in modern day India. You got Indians in America because you're dealing with these companies that scratch both sides of the Atlantic. So you shouldn't be far-fetched. You have Moros in Europe and Africa and Asia. But all of a sudden you don't got Moros in America. You got Indians in America, Indians in India. Shouldn't be far-fetched. Shouldn't be something that could be so confusing to people. In the same way they can ask some more if he's from Morocco overseas. I can ask the Indian if they're from India overseas. Alright? Alright, we'll start right there and see you in the next one.